does it mean to do local content right? I think that it means that there must be transparency as local content laws and rules are being developed. There needs to be collaboration with the private sector. CCA is a private sector driven membership organization, and our members find that in many instances in Africa, often they hear about the regulation or the new law pertaining to local content, which is then ready to go, but haven't had the opportunity to weigh in and to share what their thoughts and views are, and government often hasn't sought those views, and that's really important. I think another important thing to make it work right is that it has to be flexible, so that if you set the right local content targets, that might be right for today, but 2 years from now, 4 years from now, in terms of implementation, which is a really critical issue, it needs to be flexible. It needs to be able to respond to what's happening in the private sector and how it's working. I think that for many of those who are also investing in Africa, there needs to be a commitment from the government to consistency, because in some cases, not all, one government under, say, one party will put in place a regulation. It's being implemented a particular way. A company has taken time to negotiate what their local content contribution will be, and then a new government comes in, and then all of a sudden they're back to square one. So there also needs to be consistency as well. This is very important. I think that, to be frank, some would say don't do it the way that Nigeria has. I mean, they've been quite successful from their point of view in terms of creating the kinds of local content businesses, job creation that they sought. So on the one hand, you're looking at that. We talked a lot yesterday about balance, and it's the investors in the private sector who bear the brunt of the risk when investing, not just here in Africa, but everywhere. But it's the governments who have to put in place the regulations and the policies, the laws. They're the ones who put out the bids, and have to decide on the right private sector partner. So in terms of beacons and so forth, I think that some would say, especially in the energy services side of it, more so than the IOCs, that there was quite a bit of heartburn in trying to work through the early days of Nigeria's policy. And then, of course, Ghana, they were doing it one way. South Africa has sort of the long-standing BEEE. So, I mean, I would say there have been good and bad things that have happened in terms of local content laws and the implementation of those laws, at least from the private sector point of view. So I'm not really able to say, oh, do it exactly like country A, B, or C. I didn't mean to single out Nigeria, but I just know that there was a lot of heartburn amongst the energy services companies there when it was first being rolled out. I'm not sure they'd say that today, though. Maybe at this point in the process, they're much more comfortable with it, and they are pleased with the partnerships that they've been able to develop through the local content process there. But again, I'm just talking about initially, it was kind of tough. I liked the mix of panels on stage with experts, opportunities to hear specifically from key ministers, like yesterday, opening up with Minister Radebe of South Africa. I was very pleased to hear what he had to say, but then also, listening to the various panels yesterday. I think I attended all of them. It was really very insightful. And then I didn't get a chance to go to any of the sort of the featured spotlight sessions, but today I plan to do that. So I like that concept as well. I think you all have done a good job of dividing it up between ministers' speeches and focus in that way for sort of the plenary, the panels, and then spotlights for different countries. I think that's great.